Give us peace. Give us peace if we keep our minds stayed on thee. Lord, you promised to give us peace. Give us peace if we keep our minds stayed on thee. Stayed on thee, so God send us relief.
Praise the Lord, church.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Thank you, Jesus.
All right, God is good.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time, God is good.
I want to speak a little bit on the promises of God. I want to take a few minutes to talk about God's promises and God's will. Now, some of y'all might think, or maybe some of y'all might be saying, we didn't come here to hear that. But that's all right.
Yes, I did.
Y'all got to hear it if you stay in here.
Amen. I'm on it.
Because I'm sure going to tell it.
That's right.
The only way you ain't going to hear it is if you leave.
Amen.
And if you leave, you better leave in a hurry because I'm fixing to tell it.
Come on, fix and tell it.
I'm fixing to tell it.
Amen.
Now, God has a will. You all know God has a will. He has an unconditional will, and God has a conditional will.
Mm-hmm.
God's unconditional will is that He will let something happen, and when there's no strings attached. It's not conditional. He'll just let it happen because He wants it, no matter what we say, regardless of what anybody else says. But God's conditional will has conditions. Conditions that we must meet and adhere to before God will allow it to happen. These are the things that we must do before He will allow it to happen in our life. God's promise, He promised that He would meet our every need only if we abide in Him and He abide in us and we trust in Him and His Word. God is faithful with His promises. Man is not always faithful, but God is. So I want to talk a little bit about when the conditions arrive in your life and you can rely on God's promises. Let your attention go with me to the 5th chapter of Matthew. Now, of course, a few of y'all might get lost in what I'm saying because we don't carry our Bibles with us like we used to. We don't carry our Bibles with us much more like we used to. So you'll just have to take my word for it, but what I'm saying is true. There used to be a time when everybody in church had some kind of Bible with them. But if they didn't have a big Bible, they'd have a little testament. And then when the pastor gives out the scripture, you see everybody turning the pages, and if the pastor read it wrong, somebody would stop and say, wait a minute, brother pastor, it don't read like that, wait a minute. But we don't have folks interested like that no more. We don't carry our Bibles like we used to. But so when you get home, find your Bible, get it out, dust it off, and open it, and read these words.
Matthew what?
And seeing the multitude, Jesus went up into the mountain. And when He was set, His disciples, they came, and Jesus opened His mouth and taught them, saying, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So for a few minutes, I want to talk about the promises of God. Some of us might not be knowing what a promise really is or what a promise really means. Now, there are two definitions of what a promise is, what it really is. I looked in Webster's dictionary and saw what Webster had to say about it. And Webster said, a promise is a statement, a spoken word that binds one to the other. Number two, a promise is an indication of what might or may be expected. For like an example, sometimes you go outside and look up into the sky and you see clouds and the clouds are dark. And you might say it promises that it might rain. And then if you go outside and it's not cloudy but the sun is shining, it's all sunny and bright, these would say it promises that might be a good, fine, sunshiny day. These are promises of what we expect or suspect. I just want you to get to understand where I'm coming from. The third meaning of a promise is you give one's word without reservation. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I've had folks that give me their word, and maybe y'all have too. But I wonder if anybody you know ever had a close friend that said, I'm going to, for example, you mind if I use your name, Minister Albert?
No, I don't mind.
All right, for instance, Minister Albert might say, Sister Margaret, I'd like to tell you a secret, something in strictest confidence. and I don't want you to tell nobody, Sister Margaret. And Sister Margaret will say, Minister Albert, don't you worry. You know good as well you can trust me. I promise you that I won't tell nobody. And Minister Albert will bend over and tell Sister Margaret some of her most personal and intimate secrets of her heart. And she'll go home knowing that she has entrusted her secret to Sister Margaret. And no doubt Sister Margaret was interested to get this information from Minister Albert. And she promised, Sister Margaret promised, and crossed her heart and said, I will not tell nobody. I crossed my heart and I hope to die. I will not tell nobody, Minister Albert. Now this can be Monday. And then Tuesday, Miss Jackson, who lives on the other side of town, on the opposite side of town, will tell Carmen, and Carmen will tell Vernon, and Vernon will tell Justin, and then they all want to know where it all started at. Because somebody that made a solemn promise broke their word and broke their promise, which let you know man cannot be trusted most of the time to keep a promise. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Amen. Amen.
But we find in our everyday lives that people, there's no respect for a lot of people. There's no respect for keeping promises. You can go in the courtroom. They'll pick up the Bible, raise one hand, put one hand on the Bible, raise the other hand high in the air, and swear and say, what I'm about to say is the truth, will be the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. But you see, God, the judge already knows that somebody is lying. That's why he made this law about perjury. That you be found guilty of perjury, you be in trouble. And there's a whole lot of people that purge. You can go to the civic court and go in there and sit there for an hour, and you might see a whole bunch of people there just for lying because they didn't keep their promise to tell the truth. People don't care that much about keeping their promises. Men and women will spend thousands of dollars, and they will call the florist and order orchids and orange blossoms by the thousands. They will decorate and light candles, and they will rent a hall. They will rent a limousine and get 9 champagne fountains that are flowing continuously until everybody is nice and tight and light and happy in the head. They'll roll out a long white strip down the middle of the church. They'll buy 2 rings, one for the man and one for the woman. And they will hire the most expensive or the most professional organist in town to play sweet music. And the bride, she will practice for months, walking down the aisle. She'll go to the very best dress shop in town until she finds a creation for the one this all-important day. They will walk down the aisle, they'll kneel in front of God's holy altar, and I'm talking about a promise now, and they will vow and say, I will love and honor and cherish you till death do us part, in sickness and in health, as long as we both shall live. And then they will seal it with a kiss, right in front of all them people, and the pastor ordained from heaven by the power invested in him. And then 2 weeks later, bam! I said 2 weeks later, those promises gone down the drain. People don't care nothing about saying I promise, but God's promise ain't like that.
No, it's not. Amen.
We will go downtown to the biggest department store, wherever we at, and pick out a bedroom set. And then after that, well, we might say, well, I might as well get a couch. And those cocktail tables sure will look awful good. I think I'll get 2 or 3 of them. And on your way out, you go past the television department and say, oh, wait a minute. I'm tired of that old TV. I want me a big flat screen now. And you'll just, and they'll rush you up to the credit department. And you'll promise that if they just let you take it home, in the 1st or the 15th of the month, you can look for a payment. You promised so hard that you saw your name on the bottom line, and you promised that you pay. And then on the 1st, they don't see you. On the 15th, they don't see you. Then on the 16th, you get a notice, and on the 17th, you call them and say, I'll be there on the 20th. On the 20th, they don't see you. And you call back again saying, I'm having a little problem. My husband has been laid off, and my check done got lost in the mail somehow. But as soon as I can get it straight or get it together, I promise I'll be down there. But what you promise is not what's important. But what they promise, that's what's important. And they promised in the fine print down there that you didn't see when you signed your name, they promised that they will come and get it. And if you're not there by the 25th, if you can't find your check, and if your husband has not appeared somewhere, your furniture will disappear out of your apartment. And those are some of the kind of promises that people make.
Amen.
And also, it's convenient for some folks to forget. People forget stuff intentionally. Now, if you don't believe it, loan one of them $50. They'll say, "Oh, don't worry." You'll say, "Don't worry about it because my income tax is coming, and I promise you, the moment I get my income tax check, the first person I pay is going to be you." So when the income tax check comes, they get their income tax check, they pay everybody else, but you got to wait for your $50. It's convenient for people to come, and because you're close friends or close associates, you take their word and say, "Oh, his word is good. I know their word is good. I'm not worried about it. If they promise to do something to me, I know they will." Many times, have you ever had so much confidence in a friend that you go downtown, loan them the money for a down payment on a car, and then co-sign for them to get a new car? And then they riding somewhere in another state altogether. They somewhere riding, but you still paying because of a broken promise. Now sometimes every 4 years or so, when election time comes around, some churches will let the politicians that's running in the neighborhood to come and use their church or their pulpit, and they'll get up there and talk about all the things that they're going to do, pounding on the podium and talking about what they're going to do for the community. And they'll use up 20 minutes of your church service on a Sunday morning to get their point across, saying, if I'm put in the office, if I'm elected to the office, I promise you, there'll be a chicken in every pot. And as soon as we support them and they get in office, when the church runs into a little difficulty and you go downtown to ask them for a little favor, you can't find them nowhere. The one you voted for, we go see their secretary. You go see their secretary, and their secretary got a secretary. And you can never get to the man that made you these promises. And it makes us wonder if there's any way anybody can be trusted to keep a promise. But to tell you promises that will never be broken, first of all, this little man named Jesus. He had enough nerve to stand at the age of 12 amongst these men who had doctorates and master's degrees, and to giving them his formula for living. This little man had nerve enough to tell a thief on Calvary's cross, "Don't worry, this day you will be with me in paradise." Now that's what I'm talking about, the promise. He never broke his promise.
Amen.
Another example, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Come on.
They'll witness that Jesus keeps his word. They were thrown into the fiery furnace.
Yes, they were.
And it was heated 7 times hotter than it was supposed to be.
Yes.
And but Jesus turned the furnace into an air conditioner. And when the king looked in there, instead of seeing 3 people, he saw 4.
Hallelujah.
He saw 4 people in there, and one was the Son of God. And instead of them burning, they were rejoicing in Jesus, in God, their salvation, because he kept his promise. Jesus told his disciples that these are the promises of God. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. He promises. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And he promised, blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Can I get a witness?
Hallelujah.
Can I get a witness? Amen. 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 Sometimes in the late midnight hour, when we don't know what to do, when death had come to our home and took away one of our loved ones, and we're left standing there on the banks of the Jordan just watching the ships go by, we can steal away in the quiet of our room and mourn from the sadness that's in our heart. Now, Jesus would never promise not to give us more than we can handle or more than we can bear. But he promised us that our weeping may endure for a night.
Come on.
But joy comes in the morning. Joy comes in the morning. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted.
Yes, Lord.
And Jesus said, blessed are those that hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. That's a promise.
Amen.
And he promised, blessed are the merciful, because they shall obtain mercy. Blessed is the man that has a nipple to drop in the blind man's cup.
Yeah.
He will be blessed. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And I want to have a pure heart, because I want to see God.
Yes.
Anybody here want to see God?
Amen. I know that's right.
Say yes.
Yeah.
All right. Choose this day who you will serve. And you can have the promises of God in your life and in your heart. Never doubt God and his promises. Just be faithful, stay trust in him, honor him and obey him, and you will have no problem whatsoever, because God's promises are not like man. Man can fail you and is prone to fail you. But God never makes a mistake. He will never fail you, and he knows all that we need.
Yes.
May God continue to bless you, and he will keep his promises. That's my time. Thank you very much. God is good.
Amen.
All right.
Ow.
You know what? It's all right to use our names, because we have made promises to each other in life that we've broken.
Right.
Haven't we, Pastor? Oh, yeah, we've done it before. And I thank you, Deacon Larry, for your word today on prayer. And I asked Larry, have you talked to Minister Bonk yet? He said, no. And I never got a hold of you. But neither one of y'all talked to one another. And God put it together. The Holy Spirit put prayer and promise.
Amen.
Because guess what? We got to pray about those promises.
That's right.
We don't need promise, and prayer had to go first.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Been saying to yourself 6 months later, oh God, I know I promised them. No. Pray first before everything we do. And like he said, God promises in his time, it'll be done. I honor the both of you. There's none like you. You always manage, sir, Minister Bone, to put some humor in it. You know you always do that, and that makes you unique and different.
Okay.
People need it.
Yeah.
Too many people are sad. People come to church already sad. Some of them don't even want to come. But then when they hear you and you make people laugh, you know, it's good that God stay that way. Don't change.
Lord, you promised to give us peace if we keep our